Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Totally 80s and 90s Recall. If you're new to this podcast, we are so excited that you stopped by, and for our returning listeners, thank you so much for the continued support. Well, if you love all things 80s and 90s, from music and movies to television, pop culture, and fashion, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, David Old, joined as always by my good friend, Rob McCracken. Welcome back, Rob.
Hola.
Hola.
That's Spanish for hello.
That is. That's like that old Saturday Night Live Chris Farley, where he goes, I am El Nino, which is Spanish for
the Nino.
The Nino. That always makes me laugh. So, all right. Well, on this podcast, Rob and I will travel back to the 2 decades that shaped not only our lives, but influenced the world for generations that followed. Each episode, we will develop and discuss lists of selected topics, or perhaps identify a significant event, movie, or whatever we recall from growing up in the 80s and 90s, hopefully providing some fun and nostalgia along the way. This is a very special episode, as Rob and I will cover our favorite rom-coms of the 1990s. However, that's not why it's special. We cover topics all the time. We will not be creating these lists alone today, as we have two of the best guest hosts we could find for our first ever Valentine's Day episode, our beautiful wives, Laurel and Paula. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Are you excited to be here?
Absolutely.
There we go.
Can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday afternoon.
Well, lots of laughs for sure. I'm sure we're going to be laughing here. So,
But we're spending
That'll
it
be fun.
together.
We are.
Does this count as a date night?
Oh, well,
no, we
One,
already
it's not-
discussed that.
the night. It is the day.
It is
Wow.
the day.
And I don't have any food in front of me.
Tomato.
No, and that's what we
I'm
already
missing
discussed.
a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe afterwards.
Plans afterwards. Yes.
Plans
Yep.
afterwards.
That's fair.
That's fair.
This is a good start, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you excited to have the wives on the show, Rob?
Yeah, I think this will be fun. I'm excited.
I like to use the word think. You're not positive. But you
Did
said
I say
think it's
think?
going to be fun?
Oh, that was a slip. No, I'm excited.
I don't think so.
I'm excited.
You know,
I really am.
Was that a Freudian slip? I don't think
Yes.
so. You were saying what you meant. I think it'll be okay,
Yeah, it'll be okay.
right? I
Yeah.
guess we'll find out afterwards. So, well, before we jump in, I just want to get everybody's opinion on how they feel about the romantic comedy genre of movies.
I don't like them.
Don't like them.
Nope. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I didn't like this project.
Why do you not like them?
I didn't like it. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Just saying I don't like it is not a reason.
I didn't
Just
like it.
give a reason.
Paula had movies on her. How many did you have on the cutting room floor?
Well,
You had lots.
I think I have like 13 written down, but those are just ones that
No.
I thought were contenders. But there were a lot more I could have written
I
down.
barely filled my slots. So this was not fun for me. But what about Laurel?
I enjoyed it, but hey, I'm a big fan of the rom-coms. So, I mean, what's not to love? Love story.
Love story.
Comedy. Good thing to go on a date. You know, I
Well,
don't know.
they don't
I love
make
them.
you think.
They don't. I don't know. You feel good at the end of them.
Yes.
Well, sometimes you're a little sad at parts.
Yes.
You know, you
Oh.
don't like Hallmark movies, and they're exactly
no.
the same thing.
Oh, no.
All of it's the same.
Oh, no.
It's
No,
funny.
Hallmark is terrible.
Paula loves the
See,
Hallmark
well,
movies.
not quite so much anymore. I tried to watch them over break and I couldn't.
They're just not working anymore.
No, but I was a huge Hallmark fan, so I am. I'm really into I'm a big reader, and I'm really into what I call beach reads. I don't want to read a book that I have to think about. I think way too much in my regular life, so I like to escape in my books and in my movies, and I feel like a rom-com is one of those where you get to escape.
Absolutely.
My favorite thing that we did was one year we found, was it a bingo? It was like
It was a Hallmark movie.
It was a
bingo.
Hallmark movie bingo.
We have Hallmark Monopoly.
It was awesome.
Hallmark movie.
It made
like
getting
Christmas.
through a Hallmark movie way better.
Yeah.
'Cause-
We have a Hallmark
Oh,
Christmas
movie.
movie Monopoly.
Monopoly.
So it's got all the movie titles.
We made our children play it with us.
And they like, because Ethan and I will watch
And you have boys.
Hallmark. Yeah. And Ethan and I will watch Hallmark Christmas movies because I like the aesthetic. It's
So
that's-
you're a Hallmark fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a Hallmark fan 11 months out of the year. I like it at Christmas.
Okay.
They go to their little Christmas village. They came from the city. You got
Somebody's
some
named
guy.
Noel.
Yeah.
Somebody's name.
Yeah. Someone's named Noel. some
They
guy
have a tree
The
in
near miss
every
kiss.
room.
The
a
near
light
miss
on
kiss.
near
every-
miss kiss.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's always a guy like
the meet cute.
she went to high school with who now owns a
Yep.
tree farm, but he's the richest guy in town. And just
City
things
girl
like
goes
that.
to the country.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, you don't have to think about it. Nice and easy.
Yeah, see, that's what I like
It's a little
about 'em.
cheesy,
Yes,
but it's okay.
it's missing the comedy element.
I don't
And
think so. I laugh.
I laugh at how terrible the acting is in it. most
However
of
you
the
get to
time,
that
but
point, you laugh. So it
That's
met
right.
its objective, was to make you laugh. Well, I am okay with rom-coms. I like some, and then others are just too much. And those ones don't make my list, so that's good. I prefer the more funny of the funny version of the calm of the rom-coms. So I would, as long as I'm laughing the whole time, I can deal with it. If it gets a little too sappy, then, you know. And they always have like the cheesy one-liners.
I like the one-liners.
They're memorable.
Sometimes.
One-liners, yeah. So that's what makes the movie, and then people remember it, and it goes into pop culture, and then you can never say it to anyone else. No one repeats those to anybody, but you say them for the movie. True. You've never used out any of the lines you see in the movie, like you before we were all married. You're out, taking a Tom Hanks line and going, "Oh,
People weren't coming up and saying, "You had me at hello."
yeah, exactly."
That's
So.
how I met Paula.
You had me at hello. That's pretty.
There's
good.
a whole story to that.
That's
Oh.
funny. I have that written down somewhere, so I'm gonna have to hit that.
Okay.
But
We all
Well,
knew each other at that time.
we
so-
did.
We did.
Well, let's dive in. Let's see if we can convince our crush that we should be more than just friends, but not before they tell us that they had us from hello, as we fall truly, madly, deeply in love with 90s rom-coms. Normally, Rob and I present our top 10 list. However, for this special episode, because we have our guest hosts, we will be each revealing our top 5 90s rom-coms. So, Rob, prove to us that love doesn't stink, and lead us off with your number 5.
All right. You got, okay. Number 5. Son-in-Law, 1993.
Okay.
Discuss.
That is, that's not really a rom-com.
Tell me why not.
It is.
Because
the definition you said,
Okay.
is there a romantic element?
is a
and is it a comedy?
And
It has both those.
Yes.
ish a romantic element. He's not,
She's a South Dakota girl.
Yep.
I got that.
She meets Crawl,
I got it. I know
California
I
kid,
know son-in-law.
goes to the farm.
Trust
They
me.
fall in love.
Got
They try to mess it up. The country kid,
But they're being fake engaged just so that the
but then they
creepy
become real.
boyfriend-
They fall in love for reals.
They don't. They say they're going to put it on hold and go back to college and see how it works out. Everything
But
points to them
there's a
just being friends.
chance. I'm telling you. Okay, that's
All
my
right.
number 5. I'm sticking with it.
I
Son-in-law.
think it
I think
meets
it
the
holds.
criteria. I think it meets
Thank
the
you.
criteria.
And I forgot about that
I'm-
movie.
Ha!
I mean,
I love that movie though.
It's
yes,
funny.
like that
I know.
movie.
It makes me
Fantastic.
laugh. It's super
Yes.
stupid. It doesn't make me think.
Steven Tyler
It doesn't
PJs.
make me think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Cheek chillers.
Cheek
Yes.
chillers.
It's got a lot of one-liners.
A
in
lot
it.
of
does.
one-liners.
See?
But good one-liners.
Yeah.
I
When he
do like
sings
that
the-
movie, but I didn't think of it as a rom-com, but it
Meets the
fits.
criteria.
All right.
It's
Okay.
close. I don't think there's any resolve at the end where they get together because they say they're going to put it on hold and go back to college.
They
And
just
that
mean
indicates they're
getting
going to be
married,
friends.
right? Of putting that on hold.
But they weren't going out in the first place. So, I don't know.
No, but
Maybe.
they were fake engaged. That
I think there's real feelings there.
Maybe.
I think it's a rom-com.
I do too.
All right.
That's my number 5.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way,
Okay.
it has a 21% Rotten Tomatoes.
That's really good.
Oh.
And Brendan Fraser made a cameo
You said
as Link from
Link,
Encino Man.
Encino Man in the dorms.
Oh,
Yeah, when he
yes.
comes in and he
Mhm.
says, "We've got to get more beer for the beer bong," he's in there and he eats the frog again.
Yeah.
So, but what was the audience score?
Oh, I didn't
Did
put
you get
that
that?
down.
Yeah. So the
It's
Rotten
probably better.
Tomatoes. Sometimes the audience likes it better than the critics.
Mm.
So, well, that was a start. I usually will give him like good start, solid start, but we'll go with start. So Paula, see if you can pick it up and find a true rom-com. And
Okay. Mine was more probably one that might actually make some other people's list, but it was 10 Things I Hate About You.
Very good.
Ah, good one.
So with that, I really liked that one because it was more of the classic teen, high school
Mm-hmm.
romance. You know, I was thinking about my age during the 90s and I was 11 to 20. So
Help me. 10 Things I Hate About You. What's the storyline? I honestly,
okay.
I don't know.
Oh,
Can you give it
haven't-
like the 30-second?
So I guess it has a cult following. I read now, like everybody, I guess, is coming back to it again.
Is this the
But
one that's like the Taming of the
it's-
Shrew?
Yes,
Yes,
it's
it's
based
Heath
on the Taming of the
Ledger.
Shrew.
Heath Ledger, Julia Stiles.
Does he sing it across the bleachers?
He does.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the
So-
song?
I don't
You
know.
don't know.
I didn't remember the song either. Do you know the song?
Do I know the song?
Yep. I love you, baby.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Okay.
Very
'Cause
good.
They mentioned about that, and I was like, I don't remember the song necessarily, but I guess the feeling I liked about this is just the idea of like, I'd love to go to. I always lived in a small town, and it's set in. I don't know if it's set in Seattle, but it's filmed in
It
Seattle.
was filmed, I think,
Tacoma.
that old high school.
The
And
school
that
was
high
in
school
Tacoma,
was
yeah.
super cool, and I just remember thinking that, and I don't know, I just really liked, and she's the angry teenage girl that
Oh, yeah.
isn't really into anybody, and then all of
Nope.
a sudden, in the end,
Well,
She's
it
in.
doesn't hurt anything that Heath Ledger comes walking up. So it's like, oh, I hate all men. And then Heath
Yeah.
Ledger walks in, like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll make an exception. Right.
Yeah.
So, no, that's a underrated teen comedy that is a rom com because
Mm-hmm.
that's where. So for number 5, you're the better McCracken. So
oh, thank you.
That was a good pick.
that was a good pick.
That was a good pick.
You're off to a good start.
Yeah.
So, Laurel, let's keep it going.
All right. Well, actually, my number 5 was originally released. It is an Australian picture that was released in 1992 in Australia and then later released in February 12th of 1993 in the U.S. It actually premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and had a 15-minute standing ovation. And that movie is Strictly Ballroom.
As soon as you said Australia, I was
I-
like, I totally forgot
I could
about
have
that
swore that was
movie.
Crocodile Dundee, but for sure.
Strictly Ballroom.
Yes.
It's a Baz Luhrmann film. Do you guys know who he is?
I
Yeah, he
know
does the
nothing
Moulin
of this
Rouge.
movie.
So, yes, this was actually his very first film, and it began what they call the Red Curtain trilogy. So it was this in 96, followed by Romeo and Juliet in 2001, the one with Leo and Claire
think you're-
Danes.
Just real quick, I think your dates are off.
No.
So Strictly Ballroom was
sorry,
92.
96. Sorry, 96 for the Romeo and Juliet, and then 01 for Moulin Rouge. So he
Perfect.
was
a
responsible
shout
for
out
those.
to our crack
So,
research team that,
Sorry.
Yes, I was on
caught
that.
that.
it was my typing error looking at it. So
Well, I
while
knew
was
that-
reading stuff. So
I knew that because in our movies of 96, Rob was brave enough to put Romeo and Juliet on his top 10 list.
Yeah.
So
They
that's
did.
how I knew.
Another
you.
good one.
I didn't
Another good
realize those were connected.
They were
They
same
are.
director. So, have you seen the movie Strictly
Nope.
Ballroom,
I
Paula?
have not seen
yes,
it
I,
either.
I think that's one of the ones that we watched quite a
Probably
bit.
watched quite a bit.
Yeah.
and
What
that's why
makes
it
it
came up.
a rom-com?
So this is
It
there's
doesn't
a love
sound
story.
funny.
It is funny. In
It
the
doesn't
Baz
sound funny.
Luhrmann, it is funny. There's
Strictly.
Strictly.
That's a real direct.
So the story is
Harsh.
about a ballroom dancer. He's like a golden boy. His parents had been ballroom dancers, and they competed. And he wants to like defy the traditional ballroom dancing because he thinks it's boring, and he wants to dance the paso doble. Is that right? I
Or
think I'm remembering.
something, yeah.
At the competition, and everybody is against it. His current partner's throwing a fit about it, but he finds kind of this wallflower girl that also is learning to dance at the studio, and she agrees to do it with him. It's kind of has some. It's under. I mean, the humor in it. You have to. I don't know. You have to be a fan. It's like really in your face and loud. If you've seen any other Baz Luhrmann movies, oh, you haven't.
You've seen
it?
Romeo.
Well,
and
Romeo
Juliet.
and Juliet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of big and loud, and it's a bunch of Australian
artsy.
acts. It's very artsy. So there's definitely some comedy in it, and then the love story at the end. You know, he falls in love with the new partner and kind of revives the whole family, and everybody feels better about it. I don't know. It's a good movie.
Well,
so
I
and the
haven't
music's
seen-
great.
I haven't seen that one either. She's mentioned it to me many times, and I've not. It has never drawn my interest, but who knows? Maybe sometime. But so far, I have not watched it.
Well,
So I will take your word for it.
Yeah, one that I watched a lot of times, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. But when it kind of came across in my research, I'm like, I absolutely watched that a ton.
And
Yes.
you know this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
probably watched it.
'Cause
I
I
think
think
we
you
probably
guys
watched
watched
it
it
at
again?
our
Yeah.
apartment,
Yeah,
possibly.
that's
I
what-
feel like we had a tape of it.
Yes.
Because I know my sister would have been there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for
So let me get a
those,
little VHS.
real quick, just a little background for those listening. Our wives went to high school together, and then they also had an apartment together in college. So, as we mentioned on previous podcasts, I'm responsible for Rob's life because he never would have met you
No.
if it hadn't been for
Whatever.
us. So there it
I
is.
think he it was a real specific percentage. It was like he's responsible for 85%
It was-
of
I
my
said
success.
75,
75,
80.
75 to 80.
I won't take credit for all of it,
Oh,
but
okay.
there's a chunk that does
It's
belong to me. So that's fine. Well, that's a good. I'll take
That's a
your
good
word for
start.
it because I haven't seen it. 10 Things I Hate About You was really good, but I think I have the best one to start with, and that's going to be Blast from the Past. This came out 12 February 1999. Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, Christopher Walken, Sissy Spacek. Rotten Tomatoes 58%. Audience score 56%. If you don't know the movie, quick synopsis. Christopher Walken thinks a nuclear missile is going to hit his backyard, so they go down into a bunker for 35 years. Brendan Fraser grows up in the bunker. The lock's open 35 years later. He goes to the surface to get supplies, food, make sure, because they don't know if it's all crazy up there. Turns out a missile didn't hit in the backyard. It was a plane, so they live down there for no reason. He goes out to find a wife. He meets Alicia Silverstone. My favorite scene in the movie, one of my favorite scenes is, this was during the swing dance revival. He goes to the club and he does the swing dancing and all the girls fall all over him because he said, I've been taking a dance lesson every day for the last 30 something years because his mom taught him all the old school dance moves down in the bunker. So, but yeah, Blast from the Past, fantastic movie.
I do remember watching that one.
Yep.
It didn't
Got
even
nothing.
hit my radar when I was thinking
Well,
about this.
I
Should've.
saw it when doing my research, but I got to say that there
It's really
are
funny.
many, many more movies
Yeah.
that would rank much higher
It's
than
not
that
even
one.
on my.
First
No,
of all,
it wasn't
cutting
even
room
on
floor.
my cutting room floor either.
First of all, any project
Laurel
starting with
comes
Brendan
in fighting. She
Fraser.
comes in swinging.
She always
Yeah.
does.
Well,
This
they
is
are
what
married.
she does. What's that?
I said they are married.
This is how we survive. We come in swinging.
We don't
all the
agree
time.
on much.
Nope. It's the true, as Paul Abdul said, opposites attract.
There you go.
Oh, now I have that song in my head.
Yeah, you should. It's a good song. DJ Scat Cat.
I don't know. There may be a few that on the list.
We'll
Maybe
see.
we'll have some little crossover.
Now, mostly she's probably going to hate all of mine, but I will
Well, hey,
do the best.
you
So-
probably weren't. You're not a fan of my first choice either.
well, I
so-
didn't know it. I'm not a fan. I just don't know it. So
And that's
I
good.
can
That's
already
good to
tell
point
you.
out that we have not revealed these lists.
No, we have
No.
not.
No.
This
No,
is
we
all
have not.
everybody
first
hears.
time we've heard it.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
I'm surprised actually, but I know that he is not a fan of things like Moulin Rouge.
it's not great.
And I'm gonna guess that this would probably not be a.
But
my
I don't-
pick will not be one.
But
that
I
he
don't
will want
hate
to watch.
Romeo and Juliet. I did find that entertaining. So, well, Rob, that leads us back to you, and we'll see if you can actually find a rom-com
Can
here and
re-
give us number 4.
Redeem myself. My number 4 is The Wedding Singer, 1998.
Really good.
Good one.
Is that a good choice? Did I do
That's
good?
a good one.
That
All
one's
right.
good. See, that hits all the boxes.
All
So
right.
you're 1 for 2.
So, bassist. It's based in 1985. Adam Sandler plays a wedding singer, and him and Drew Barrymore, they get into a relationship and they fall in love. But I remember the characters. A lot of the characters in this movie were people we grew up watching. So Kevin Nealon, Steve Buscemi, John Lovitz, Billy Idol's even in it. So a lot of the characters that from SNL, like a good SNL crossover. So this is one that
Great movie.
I like.
Great choice. I can't mess with you. You totally redeemed yourself. Yes. We'll take from Dumb and Dumber. Just when I think.
totally redeemed.
Totally redeemed.
It is a cute one.
It
I've
is
always
good.
liked it. I always liked it.
Well, I think we could win the newlywed game because my number 4 is The Wedding Singer.
Oh, look at that.
Look
Great
at
minds think
that.
alike.
Because we were teasing, we're like, I don't think we'll ever guess each other's at all. So yeah, number 4. I think it's funny.
Did you share your lists?
Honest. Cross my heart,
I
hope to
did
die.
not.
Stick 100 needles in my eye.
No, but the one thing I like about The Wedding Singer is because you do laugh a lot.
You
I
do.
love Adam Sandler. I love Drew Barrymore. They're funny.
And when I was researching songs of for a previous episode, the part that I was laughing in bed as I was researching was the singer, Arquette,
Oh yeah.
and
yeah. Alexis Arquette?
she just knows the
chorus.
chorus. That's all
Yeah.
she knows
From
Yeah.
the Boy George song.
Boy
over and over
Yeah.
again. And I was laughing when that song came on. I just
Do you really want to hurt me? That's it.
Yeah.
Plus, it's set in what? I think I saw 85.
85, set in 85.
And
85.
The 80s are just
Julia Gulia.
is, so it's-
Julia Gulia.
Julia Gulia. It's a great name. Should be a name of a 90s punk band. There you go.
That's it. So you gave your number 4?
Yeah.
Number
so
4.
That is
Pick
my
you
number
two.
4.
Awesome.
So when you said that, I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Well, the McCrackens unite on number 4. So I'm going to guess we're not going to unite, but let's see your number 4.
Probably not. Mine has a little more subtle humor. So my number 4 is actually a mid-90s. It came out December 15th of 1995, and it starred Harrison Ford and Julia Ormond and Greg Kinnear, and that is Sabrina. It is
She
a
always talks about
remake,
this.
actually.
David, just his eyes
I know.
completely
Yes.
rolled.
He hates
Well,
it.
when I saw that, I remember you being a Sabrina fan.
Oh, I loved it.
So I
don't-
thought of you actually when I saw that
Yeah,
on the list.
Yeah, I saw it on the list when doing some research, and I'm like, I watched that a lot. Pretty sure we had the
She did.
VHS tape.
We did. We had a DVD of
It's
it
got
as
some
well.
subtle humor in
And now
it.
you
The
stream
mom,
it.
her jabs back and forth is probably my favorite.
Is that a remake?
It is
Yeah.
a remake.
It was like a,
There was a 1954
50s.
Billy Wilder film. It starred Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart were in the original.
I just don't like, and I like Harrison Ford. I don't like him in that movie. He's not doing a good job. He's kind of
He's
just
a straight man. He's Linus
kinda
Larrabee.
just being grumpy, and he's like no
He's
delivery.
supposed to be.
That's fine, but it's insufferable.
His
I
brother,
can't do
Greg
it.
Kinnear, is the easygoing,
I got it.
party boy.
I know.
and-
You've made me watch Sabrina. I've seen
I
the
know.
movie. It's not for me, but I won't dog it. I just don't want to watch it anymore. So, but I'm glad that you picked it, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So,
Well,
yeah,
you're
I
lucky.
just-
we don't watch it. I don't watch it that often.
don't-
Every once in a
no.
while, I'm like, oh
You
yeah,
haven't
I
watched
forgot
it
about that
forever.
movie. And no, I haven't watched
when
it.
I first met you, it would come on TV. You popped it in. You watched it several times.
well,
We watched
that's
it at your
because
parents' house.
it was
one
only
day.
about a 3-year-old movie when
Yeah, I
I
know.
first met you. So
It's all good.
it was on repeat.
I
a
would
lot, so.
say, even though she made fun of it, the first choice I had, I would say we've seen Blast from the Past more recently than we've seen Sabrina. So that tells you the quality that we're diving into there, right? So
I like
Or who picks the movies.
Well,
I mean, sometimes.
you may not agree, but it did get nominated for Best Picture at the Golden Globes in 1996 for a musical or comedy. And also, Harrison Ford was nominated for Best Actor
Well-
in a musical or comedy.
well, nominations aren't everything
So,
because
I think other people would think that it was okay.
All right. Well, nominations aren't everything because Jerry Maguire was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah,
and
that's that was
no reason that should
that's
ever happen.
terrible.
So ratings aren't everything. Well, that's a choice, and that's a choice for you. So good job.
That's a
My
I
number
am
4.
0 for 2.
No, 0 for 2. My number 4 is hers was subtle comedy. Mine is right up in your face. So I Married an Axe Murderer. Released 30 July 93. Mike Myers, Nancy Travis, more Mike Myers. 53 Rotten Tomatoes, 68% for the audience. This thing's funny all the way through. Obviously, Mike Myers is playing multiple characters. Plays his dad, plays himself. Basic plot of the movie, he's trying to fall in love. Mike Myers, I think he has a job. They say he's a poet, but he's not really doing much.
He was a beat poet.
He was a beat poet. I didn't know that paid that well, but apparently so. He ends up meeting Nancy Travis's character. They go out, they fall in love, but then he thinks that she's some kind of serial murderer. They end up getting married, but then on the wedding night, he thinks she's trying to kill him. And so comedy ensues, right? But my favorite two scenes in the movie, my first favorite scene is they're over at the house for dinner.
Yeah.
And the dad is on the couch drunk talking to Mike Myers' friend.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the 5 wealthiest people controlling the world.
Pentaverate.
And yeah, and he says, "Well, who's in the friend says, who's in this club?" And he's like, "The Queen, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, the Vatican, and Colonel Sanders," before he went tits up. And he says, "Oh, I hated the Colonel."
With
and his
his
whole face with his wee beady eyes. Just and for no reason hating Colonel Sanders. And the best part about that later is I always laughed anyway, but later finding out that actor with him,
Yeah.
he didn't know any of that dialogue.
I think he was at
And
he was at
he's-
DeLuise, I think.
He's really laughing, like he's
really?
trying
I
to.
think so.
He's trying.
Oh, no, he's
to,
a Baldwin.
No, he's Anthony LaPaglia or
Oh,
something's
okay.
his name. But he
He's
didn't know
laughing for
Mike
reals.
Myers was going to do any of that, and you can watch it on the movie. He's turning away, just trying not to like die laughing.
Well, and
So
he's,
good.
he makes fun of the kid.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
si- he's like,
with
he'd
move.
pants,
Pants.
no.
Oh, he says
Yeah.
he'd
Yeah.
move.
Yeah,
That kid's like
Awesome.
a head like
Talking about his-
Sputnik.
yeah, that
Yeah,
movie's
yeah.
awesome.
Like an orange on a
But-
toothpick.
My favorite other part of that movie, which is very short part, but so good. It's actually my favorite part. Phil Hartman's in it, right? So they go visit Alcatraz, and Phil Hartman is a tour guide that used to be a prison guard when it was still an actual prison. And he's walking around the tour, folks, and he says, well, here's a story the other tour guides won't tell you. He said Machine Gun Kelly had in the system what we call a bitch. And he said one night, in a rage, he gouged out the bitch's eyeballs, and then they took turns peeing in his ocular cavities. Well, he does it real subtle and real low like Phil Hartman. Then right when he says the ocular cavity parts, and the whole crowd is like, oh my gosh, he goes, this way to the cafeteria. So it's just perfect. He sells it perfect. Like he's telling this horrid story, and then he just goes this way to the cafeteria. So, but yeah, So I Married an Axe Murderer, hilarious, love it.
That's a good
I
pick.
did watch that, but I didn't. When I saw it on the list, I actually thought I do want to rewatch that because I don't
You
think
should.
I
You would laugh
watched
a
it
lot.
as much as maybe some other movies.
I'll give you
in
some
the
credit.
90s.
That didn't even come up when I was doing research of thinking of rom-com.
No,
I don't know
'cause
why, but
I-
it definitely fits those. No,
It
it's
does.
a great
I guess
movie.
I
Hits
feel
all
it's
marks.
more of just a comedy versus
That's
a
what
rom-com.
me too.
Yeah,
But it does
But
fit.
I guess there is
But they-
the love story
because they
in
fall
there.
in love, and then
Yeah.
they get married, but then he runs away from her on the wedding night thinking she's trying to kill him. Turns out it's the
It's a-
sister,
yeah,
so they
it's the-
reconcile, and there you
Yeah,
go.
so it does fit in that. But you're right. I'm
Because
with
they are.
Paula. I think I would have thought of it as just more of a comedy, and that's probably why it didn't come
Yeah.
up when I was thinking, because I do love that movie.
It
Might
is
be
good.
my
That's a rewatcher one.
Oh, yeah.
favorite.
I'd rewatch it.
Yeah, I
it
was
might be my
thinking, I wanna
favorite
watch that
Mike
again.
Myers movie.
All
It's a
right,
good one.
Rob. Number 3.
So I Married an Axe Murderer. That was my number 3.
Ah,
We would
great
win
minds
the
think alike.
Newlywed Game.
Yeah,
Maybe we'd do well. David and
We would.
they would.
We know a lot of stuff.
I.
We already know that this works better.
So yeah.
We're
so,
not seeing a lot of movies, David and I, together, obviously, because we do not have the same taste.
so the only thing different on my list I put is that I found it was they call it a romantic black comedy.
Oh.
That was
Yeah, a little
because it
bit.
did have a little dark
Because it's dark.
dark
Yeah.
humor to it. The thing I remember, I don't know why I remember, is his beat poet scenes.
Oh yeah,
Where he's going,
Woman.
Harriet, sweet Harriet.
Yeah, it's the woman poems.
Woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. He
Whoa,
was a beat poet.
man. He
Yeah.
said,
And then I
"Whoa,
put
man."
in my notes, I put the grandpa. That was my other favorite scene. Was
Oh, yeah.
they put an addictive chemical that makes you crave it day
Yeah.
and night. They smart ass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
Those
that
were the
whole
best
scene is
scenes
it.
with
Yeah.
when he was playing his dad.
Oh, when he does the Bay City Rollers.
Oh, yeah, Bay City Rollers.
SADURDAY.
Or when the mom's showing him photos,
Oh, yeah.
and he comes in and goes, "Show him the one of Charlie shitting his pants at Niagara Falls." It's so good.
Yes, that whole
perfect.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's my number 3.
Good.
Nice.
So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Perfect.
Good
Number
one.
3.
Well, my number 3, I did read, was originally supposed to be a very dark movie. And then eventually when the certain, probably like director or something got a hold of it, changed it around. And that is Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman.
Yeah. So I did not know that about that.
Supposed
And
to
I
be dark,
also,
huh?
it was supposed to be dark. Vivian was supposed to be the one with all the drug issues and all of that, but they switched that over to her friend. Was her friend's cat?
Yeah,
Kit?
maybe.
Kit.
Kit. That's what it was.
And yeah, and also how many big name actors were supposed to be play both parts, and they didn't, either didn't want to portray a prostitute or didn't want it when it was so dark and all of this. And there were like names lists before they finally got to Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. So
I mean, that's a classic rom-com.
it is.
I mean, it's
1990 too. I
It's
think
the old-fashioned story
1990.
of a prostitute meeting a rich guy and then getting rich.
It's the
They made it more of a
age-old
Cinderella story
yeah.
versus.
They did.
See, I don't.
Uh,
that something felt like more of a drama to me. Like
No.
it's got some humor to it.
Yeah, remember when he slams and she laughs
Yeah.
uncontrollably?
And that
some
was
cute
completely,
parts
I
to it.
read, was completely off
Ad-lib?
the cuff. Yep.
Yeah, didn't
ad-lib.
Gary
And that was
Marshall? Gary Marshall?
Gary Marshall.
Yeah, I think he told Richard Gere to do it, but they didn't tell Julia Roberts that they were doing
And
it.
so that's her real laugh.
And she does at when they're watching polo, she mimics Arsenio Hall with the woo woo.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh,
So there's some funny stuff.
okay.
I think.
But
when
Jason
I-
Alexander's in that movie,
is.
Yeah.
who's George Costanza.
And he plays a
known
nasty.
for being
He does.
funny, and he is not funny at
He's
all.
No,
He's a
he's
jerk
a creep.
the whole movie. So, but yeah, Pretty Woman.
But yeah,
Woman.
so, and that's
good
one
pick.
that, 1990, I was like, oh my gosh, I was only 11. What was I doing?
Watching Pretty Woman.
that movie.
Perfect.
But I do
Perfect
remember
age.
watching that and watching it a lot and even like, I think as a family. And
And see, when you're 11, you can go, well, if I grow up to be a prostitute, hopefully I'll meet a rich person,
Right.
and then he'll just pull me right out of that
Yeah.
that lifestyle, and
Yeah.
I'll have
And
no
come
problems.
rescue me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
So
there are some pretty steamy.
Well,
Rob is your
Intimate
Richard
scenes
Gere.
in that
there
movie.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the piano and the bar,
Oh, right.
It
Yeah.
is.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. But when I was watching that, our age, because I would have only been like a year or two older than you. Probably picking up. I liked her clothes. That was probably a lot
Yeah.
of it. She got to go shopping and
She
Rodeo
did.
Drive.
Her first clothes
I've seen all
weren't
the
great,
awesome
but
stuff.
no.
You know,
No.
Literally.
flying
And
the
I
private jet. Those were the things I
And
picked
there's
up
some
on.
lines in it that you say like, but I'm not wearing any pantyhose
Yeah.
or something like that.
Okay.
And I do when I have a lot of cash or I see people with a lot of cash in their hands or like just kind of holding cash. I always say like, I have all this money and nobody
will
will
take
sell
it.
me any clothes. So there's things that I quote.
Sweet.
It's a good pick.
Good pick.
Good pick. Good.
So are we at Laurel's?
We
I was
are?
going to
Oh,
ask really
yeah,
quick.
go
What
for
do you? So this Rotten Tomatoes thing, I did look at that last night
Mm-hmm.
because I have seen or heard you talk about that.
Yep.
So what is it? Where do you think the cutoff is where it's a good Rotten Tomatoes score?
Well, I think their gauge is anything above 65% from the critics they consider high.
Okay.
Anything below 65% they consider rotten.
Okay, because Pretty Woman was a Rotten Tomatoes of 66, and
So
I
it's right
thought
above.
that was kind of low.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a
Like from
So
the
they call it
critics or the
certified
audience score.
fresh.
well.
there's two
Rotten
scores.
Tomatoes is
Rotten Tomatoes is your critics, and
Okay.
anything above 65, I think, is certified fresh.
Okay.
But I often look at the audience score because there'll be movies like that where it's 66%, and then audience will be like 82. So what that tells you is the audience thinks more of it. Critics sometimes are looking at it from a movie making
yeah.
situation, and that's not always the best way to
Because
look at a movie.
earlier we're
Well,
talking about
especially with the
Son-in-Law.
rom-com when we're talking about like it's not necessarily cinematic
Yeah.
Right.
gold.
But
Right.
critics
But it-
still just rate it
Cinematic
the way
gold.
they're going to do it.
Yeah, Son-in-Law has a 21% Rotten Tomatoes,
Rotten
but
Tomatoes.
audience 59.
So see,
Okay.
audience loves it a lot more than the critics do.
Which I didn't look at when I was looking out on it. I didn't see the percentage for audience, but I did see like a rating where it would say like 4.7 or something like that out of 5.
It's still it that's a more audience driven movie. People nostalgically like that movie more than critics probably ever would have. So, well, what's your number 3?
Laurel.
Well, speaking of Rotten Tomatoes, mine actually had an 86% Rotten Tomatoes and an 86% audience score for the same. So this one came out in 1997, and it is As Good as It Gets, starring Jack
Ooh.
Nicholson, Helen Hunt, Greg Kinnear again. Had a little bit of Cuba Gooding Jr. in there, too, and Skeet Ulrich, if you know who he is.
We do Scream.
Yeah, Scream. So
Can't go wrong with the Skeet.
Jack Nicholson, he's awesome. He plays an obsessive compulsive like romantic fiction writer, but nobody can stand the guy. He's a complete jerk, and the only person that that can tolerate him actually is Helen Hunt's character. I think she's a waitress at a local diner that he frequents, but he's obsessive compulsive, can't walk on cracks, carries his own silverware.
It's kind of a shut-in.
He
He
is.
is,
he?
yeah.
Except
he
for
kind of,
going to the cafe to
yeah,
eat.
he pretty
he
much
kinda
he's
stays
kind of
home.
is it he's agoraphobe? Is that what
I don't know all
people
my
that-
phobes.
a little bit. Yeah. So anyways, but so there's a lot of good and you guys talked about one-liners, and I think this movie may have one of the best one-liners, and it's kind of romantic. It's when his character says to Helen Hunt, "You make me want to be a better man."
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. So is that the romantic connection with Jack Nicholson character and
Helen Hunt.
Oh.
at
They
the
are,
end.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't-
Yeah. So,
So you see where our differences are on one-liners. She got something really good and thoughtful there, and I went with show him the picture of him shitting his pants in Niagara Falls, right?
And ocular
Cheek chiller.
cavities.
So and peeing in ocular cavities.
That's right.
So
that's
when
where we
when,
went.
Right
when
there.
it's movie night choice at our house and our kids are there, guess who will they want to watch? What movie they want to watch? The one Dad picks. 'cause
Not
it's never
always.
the one Mom wants to
Yeah,
watch.
she picks
So-
good ones too sometimes.
usually they want
Sometimes.
they
We
like all
debate.
Dad's funny movies.
We debate, and then we end up just watching blended. So
Oh, yes.
Oh man, we've watched that movie so many times when we were overseas. I think it was on every weekend
yeah, it was on a lot.
on AFN.
I said on a previous podcast, it became the de facto old family movie.
Well,
We
I
watched
think
it everywhere we go.
okay.
Do we have one?
I think we have one,
Say.
and it's Adam Sandler as well. Just go with it.
Oh, yeah, we've watched
just
that
go
one
with
a
it.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the kids love that.
That's
That's
the-
usually what we go.
That's the Jennifer Aniston one, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where she's the
assistant.
homely assistant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, the homely
Yeah.
assistant.
He's dating all these other really attractive girls
Yeah.
because his assistant isn't as attractive.
Yeah.
He always sells that well, does Adam Sandler. Right? So,
Well, and I know you always mention Adam Sandler always gets the most attractive
Of course.
female actresses to play opposite him.
he walks around in basketball shorts,
Yeah.
T-shirts, and polo shirts that are like dirty or whatever, and then he has wives like Salma Hayek, Jennifer Aniston, Kate Beckinsale, Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's his movie. He's casting it, so you got to be smart.
Who was the girl in? Just go with it.
Jennifer
No,
Aniston.
the other one. The
Brooklyn Decker?
Yeah.
Brooklyn
She's
Decker.
married
There
to
you
the
go.
old Andy Roddick. Yeah. So,
Yep.
well, that was good. I've seen As Good as It Gets. Big award-winning.
It
type
is.
movie.
Also, it
I
won.
didn't think it was as funny.
Well, it's funny.
It's not as much on the comedy side.
But yeah, no, actually, that
For me.
it is very funny. The director actually couldn't think of anyone else to play the character Melvin Udall, who was played by Jack Nicholson. He actually did briefly consider Bill Murray for the for the
See, that would've been
the
funnier.
same.
It said that quote it would not have made it would have made a completely different movie.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
funnier.
it wouldn't. No, Jack Nicholson's funny in it because he's
All
just I don't know. So Jack Nicholson did win an Oscar for Best Actor that year for it, and Helen Hunt won Best Actress.
Oh, I know.
It was also nominated for Best Picture, and it was Greg Kinnear was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. So
It was
Yeah,
a good
it
movie.
was,
it was a good movie,
It holds
highly
its own.
rated.
It
Yeah,
does. It's a
a
very
good
highly
movie.
rated movie.
It's a
I
good
just
one, and it's
I
one
don't
of those-
laugh a lot when I watch it.
It is funny. It's
But-
subtle funny, but
subtle
and
funny.
there's the love story. I don't know. And it was one of those ones that I have not watched in years, but when it came up on the list, I'm like, I loved that movie, and I know I've seen it many, many times.
Nice. Well, my number 3 is not subtle humor again. It is Boomerang, released in 1 July 1992. Eddie Murphy, Robin Givens, Halle Berry,
Boomerang.
Martin
That's not
Lawrence, David Allen Greer.
That's dumb.
How is it dumb? Have you seen Boomerang? It's not dumb. It's fantastic. So, plot of the movie is Eddie Murphy's a big ad executive. He gets a new boss, Robin Givens. He's kind of a player dog type. He tries to go after her. She turns out that she's the exact version of him, but a female version. So they kind of go back and forth. But then in the end, who he truly falls in love with is another new coworker who is Halle Berry. But since he slides back and starts going out with Robin Givens again, they break up. But in the end, they end up together. So it's your classic romantic comedy coming together. So, but one of my favorite scenes is when they're all having dinner together, and David Allen Greer's dad comes over, mom
Best
and dad,
part.
and the dad comes in and he's wearing this suit, and Eddie Murphy's commenting on how nice. It's the dad from Friday, if I forget, I think it's John Witherspoon or something's his name. But he comes in and he goes, hey, he had a little pocket square, and he goes, I like the mushrooms on your pocket square. And he goes, you know what the key to the mushrooms on the pocket square is? He goes, coordination. And so he opens the jacket, and the lining of the jacket has mushrooms. And then his belt has mushrooms on it, and his socks had mushrooms. And he's like, you got to coordinate. And so they do it. And then there's a big thing at the end where like David Allen Greer's standing by the bathroom, and he's like, "What?" Eddie Murphy asks him, "What's the problem?" And he's like, "My parents have been in there for like an hour." And he goes, "Are they okay?" He goes, "No, they're just having sex in there." And then they walk out, and they're all his jacket is turned inside out. You see all the mushrooms and everything. So, and Martin Lawrence has some really funny scenes in this too. He's not in it a lot. He's a friend. He has some parts in it, but. Great movie, great soundtrack. Rob, End of the Road, Boys to Men.
That's the only thing
So
I knew
it's
about
not
that
the
movie.
only thing.
Yeah,
but
the only thing
really
I
good
knew.
movie.
The dad's the funniest part in there. I feel like Eddie Murphy, he's not even funny in it.
He's funny.
missing out.
He has funny
I
parts.
don't know.
I don't
Chris,
know if I've
Chris
seen
Rock
it.
is also
You've never
in
seen
that.
Boomerang?
I know the movie, but I don't know
that
if I've ever seen it.
I don't know that I've ever watched it all the way through.
I
I'm
like-
surprised that it's that high on your list.
I like the part when
Yeah,
when
that's
he
it. That's your number 3.
number
That's
3.
shocking.
Boomerang.
That's shocking.
I like
With
that
all
movie.
the choice. Okay, that's true. This is your list.
I bought it.
Nope.
I have it streaming, and when it came out, I watched it a lot. So
Okay.
I enjoy it. I like Eddie Murphy. So
All right, where are we at?
you're at your number 2, Rob.
My number 2. Okay, so I think my number 2 is the most rom-com on my list. It's Notting Hill, 1999.
Wow. You went with Notting Hill.
I like that one.
All right.
I'm not a
It's a
big
good
fan of it,
movie.
but I do like that. I think it's funny. I thought what I like about it, I know it's a really stupid thing to like, but there's a really great scene where they don't see each other for a while,
Yeah.
and they do the seasons,
Yes.
and he's walking down
and the
the
music.
yeah, and I think it's Ain't No Sunshine.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
so, but it's a really cool where he's walking down the same street, and it kind of blends through the
Yeah.
different seasons, and I just think it's really clever. I
remember that.
like the
That's good.
cinematography.
I'm glad you picked that scene because I
Yeah.
thought you were going to go to that. I'm just a girl standing in front of a bully.
But it does have a good one-liner,
does
so
have
there you
some
go.
lines.
You know?
Yeah, it does.
And then
I
the
mean, that is
characters.
as cheesy
there's-
as it gets right there.
Yeah.
But
That's rom-com.
that's rom-com. You knew the directions.
I knew the
But-
directions. Yeah.
and then there's characters. You got there's the brother. Is it the brother that's got the wife that's in the wheelchair?
No, they're
Yes.
just
Yes.
so
Oh, no,
good
They're
friends.
friends. Okay, so they're
Friends.
friends, and then you got Spike, the roommate.
The
You got the
roommate.
sister that's a
He's the
little
best part.
weird.
In his
Spike
underwear.
roommate's the
Yep,
best part.
and
Spike's
so-
the best part.
And then
Absolutely.
there's kind of these little sub stories going on. There's the relationship between the sister and Spike,
yeah.
and then there's the friends.
Mhm.
You know, their relationship and still being together after all the years, and she's picking him up, and it's just so there's all these different kind of multi stories going on, and I
Yeah.
liked it. So
Yeah.
that's my
Notting
number
Hill.
two.
It's a good one. I've watched.
Yeah.
And then
I think I had a tape of that one too. A
The
VHS tape.
the oopsie
Uh,
daisy scene where they're
Oopsie
trying to
daisy.
climb the
Yep.
fence, and he says,
So real
"Oopsie
quick,
daisy." So.
Laurel said she thinks she had a tape of that. That's not accurate. So I was at the store and we had just bought our first DVD player, and I bought this movie for her on DVD and brought it home.
That's so
But yeah,
nice.
she thinks she might have had the tape of it, so at least she remembered. Right?
His memory of some of this stuff. I'm like, really?
Well,
He-
that's
like,
like-
he remembers.
Notting
You
Hill.
gave me this for first Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently,
Yeah,
it was a wallet.
She doesn't remember.
I
It was
bought
a
him
wallet. I still have it. I use it. It's in my pocket right now.
That just reminds me of that
Kevin James.
Kevin James.
He's
We
got a
watched
whole
his
bit
stand-up,
where
but
he's like,
remember that one time when I gave you that? You wore that butterfly clip in your hair. He would
That's-
just hold
that's-
on to that and just bring
that's
it back
how he
every
would.
time.
That's how he would de-escalate an argument.
Oh yeah.
Remember
He
that
would
one
say-
time when I bought you Notting Hill?
Yeah.
And then-
Perfect.
and
When
then-
we got
Right.
our first DVD
She
player.
forgets.
Yeah.
It's all good.
His memory's a lot better than mine.
Well, Paula, what is your number two?
My number two, and I had a hard time because I could have put this one as number one, and it's Never Been Kissed. It came out in 1999, and it
Mr.
is
Rob.
my lowest Rotten Tomato score of 55 on my list. But I don't know. I just love Drew Barrymore.
It was a cute one.
It was cute. I love how it's funny because she just, when she's back in
Yeah.
her 80s self, or even when she's trying to be her 80s
Josie
self
Grossi.
again. Josie Grossi. I think David Arquette's funny in it. Her brother, who's kind of
Yeah.
trying to come back and rescue
Rob.
her.
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Rob.
Rob.
Mr.
That's where we
Rob,
get the
that's right.
reference
Is that
where that
when
comes
we
from?
call.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What
that's where
I-
we get the Mr. Rob
So-
from.
It's a solid movie. It's what I like about it is the believability of David Arquette and Drew Barrymore going back to high school and just blending right in, and everybody going.
Nobody
yeah, they-
questions
Yeah,
it.
they look like seniors or juniors or whatever year they're supposed to be. And really, what I love even better than that is the teacher is doing everything to go after Drew Barrymore's character. He is not hiding it in any way whatsoever. And then when he finds out she's an adult and he could actually date her, that's when he gets mad. So I'm just throwing that out
She
there.
lying to
wasn't
him.
honest. But honestly,
No, I think he just because she wasn't a high school girl anymore. He's like, "Are you just 25 like me?" That's okay. I could have found that.
No, and there were some criticisms about that movie I saw about how, okay, we're promoting teachers liking students, but no, he liked
Oh no,
her.
he'd be arrested today. That's it.
He
That's
liked her
over.
for her personality
That's
and
what
what
it was,
she
yes.
thought, and it
Because she didn't act.
'Cause-
Because she didn't truly think like a high schooler.
no,
Because she was 25 years old.
I know.
and I think if I remember right, it's been a little bit since I watched it, but I do remember him saying like her making a reference to like people don't like me or something like that, and he was like, no, it's because I shouldn't like you,
Yeah, he knew.
right? Yeah,
He was playing it
So-
off. He knew what he was doing. He would have been fired.
I don't find anything wrong.
And you're all teachers, and you should know this.
I know it was so I knew when I was putting that
Yes.
on the list. I thought, okay, this could be a little bit, but I
It
just
is a funny.
liked
It does have some funny parts to
It's
it,
Have some funny
funny.
parts.
and it has a classic.
I'm Josie Grossi.
Every teenage
I'm Josie
movie has that
Grossi.
classic. We're going to a dance.
Yes.
And it's a costume dance because they're all wearing their costumes, and it's the prom. And then I think there's a coordinated dance because in every good teen movie, the whole school knows one dance, and then they all execute it together.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, and
Anyway,
Molly
good movie.
Shannon's funny in it.
You're right.
Molly Shannon's funny.
Yeah, as her little
John C.
sidekick.
Riley's not bad in that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's got a cast. That's
It
good.
does have a good
All
little
right.
cast. So
I just
that's a
the
good pick, Paula.
believability is real good for me, so that's why and the creepy teacher. So that's where you get it.
But it's nice. You've got somebody that, felt like they missed out on a lot of stuff in high school, and it's the opportunity. It's for those few
Well,
people that will say, I really wish I could go back to high school. I've known a few of those
Maybe
people.
we should try, Rob. maybe we
But
could
they
pass
get to go
off
back and
as
try and
high
redeem
schoolers, right?
You're not 25.
You're not 20.
I don't think Drew Barrymore was 25 either.
Security would escort me out.
Quickly.
Wait, you are in a school every day.
Yeah.
No, and they probably should escort me
Well,
out.
good, solid choice. Laurel, what is your number 2?
All right. I know I've watched this many times, and you've probably had to be tortured by it. And that movie came out in the early 90s in 91, and it is Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride.
Starring Steve Martin, Diane Keaton,
I
Martin
knew that
Short,
would be on her list.
That's
and
on my cutting room
Kimberly
floor.
Williams Paisley. I guess she was
That's
only
a
Kimberly Williams
Good
at the time.
choice.
Yep. It actually rated pretty well. It got 70% Rotten Tomatoes and 70% audience score. So
Did you watch the reboot?
I did not.
Okay.
The current one that just
With
Yeah.
came
Andy
out
Garcia.
with Andy Garcia. I feel like it's going to be missing something because the best part of that movie, I mean, Steve Martin's looks are fantastic. Especially for instance, another good one-liner in this one. He's like you, Dad, except for he's brilliant when she's describing it. And his look.
Such a backwards compliment.
It's amazing. But just his looks and the torture of, I don't know. But the probably the best part of that movie is Martin Short
I think so.
playing
He's like the wedding planner.
the wedding
Yeah,
planner.
he's good.
And
Frank
Frank.
Frank Egelhofer. I
Frank.
think it's a Frank
Is that where
Egelhofer.
he mispronounces cake?
Cock.
It's cock.
Or something.
Or what is he, when
And-
he says something about chicken, he's like I
Oh.
forget, but it's
The
something about,
very chic
yeah.
chicken.
Yeah,
or something.
there's some
chic-
chicken thing.
I don't
It's-
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
No,
what
it's
his
funny.
And
accent was.
when he
but
sings like, everybody
he
has a pooper.
That's when we invited you.
Yeah.
So I still sing that to
Yeah.
people 'cause
That's what that's from.
in that
Yeah.
George Bonks.
George
That's
Bonks.
you.
Yeah.
Well, and then they did the second one of Father of the Bride too, and
Yeah.
when she was pregnant, and Diane Keaton.
Her
both got
babies on the
pregnant.
They
same
both
day.
did, mom and daughter at the same time. So you got
First
to
one was better.
see. The first one was the best one. It was. But I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for that one, and I still, like watching it every once in a while. And I don't know. It still holds. And like David says, the mom, Diane Keaton in it. That David says that's my mother.
Yeah.
Yes, I've always
yes.
thought
So,
that.
yeah,
I've always thought that.
Yeah,
Always looks like your
so
mom.
yeah, always look like my mom. So maybe that's a little bit of it. And honestly, some of the looks that my dad, I feel like I saw those looks on my own dad's face
Yeah.
when we were planning our wedding. When I
probably
was
true.
arguing with him about I want this dance floor, and he's like, how
Did
much
you-
it's going to cost me. Instead, I'm going to use this plywood, and then we're going to put it on the house afterwards because I'm
Our
remodeling
dance
the
floor
house.
was nice.
Your
Our
dance
dance
floor was
floor?
killer.
I know
Our
it
dance
was.
floor is literally now on their house.
So
it's part of the
Memories.
site.
Memories, and it's
memories.
forever part of
Memories.
everything.
Did you ever look at your dad and go, he's just like you, Dad, only he's brilliant?
Brilliant. She has never said that.
I did not.
So that's okay. That's okay. Well, my number 2 was already mentioned by the two of you, and that is The Wedding Singer. So I won't rehash a lot of the things you hashed. I would just say my 2 favorite scenes in that. My first one is the whole scene where they're trying out John Lovitz, and he does his singing. And then she goes, well, you've inspired me to get a DJ. And he goes, well, good luck finding a DJ that can move and shake
Like this.
like this, right? That's so funny. But what's
Yeah.
funnier on the back end is when he plays his song, that half Cure, half
Oh, yeah.
crazy rock song. I love that song, because it starts out Cure and then it goes nutso. And then my second favorite scene in that movie, it's subtle, it's silly, but he's making his friend do like an obstacle course in his limousine.
Oh, yeah. Those are cool.
yes.
For whatever, and
Those
he
are
goes
cones.
when he's done, he clicks the clock and he goes, you hit 2 cones. Those could have been people at her wedding. He goes, they were cones. Like, I don't know why it's funny. I just laugh every time. So, and then when they're in the car later, he goes, I got the job, right? And he's like, well, you're the only limo driver in town. So. But anyway, so yeah, Wedding Singer, can't rehash much more. And he said it's got a great soundtrack. I love the
does.
throwback to all the 80s music. There's a lot of great characters in there, only in there for parts of a second, things like that. So
That's a good
funny
pick.
movie. 70% Rotten Tomatoes, audience 80%. So obviously the audience likes it better than the critics. But that's a good critic score for a Adam Sandler movie. Usually they're much lower. But well, before we reveal our number ones, we do a fun segment we call the Cut Line. For this segment, we will each identify one movie that just fell out of our top 5. We will then also identify an honorable mention that was a movie we missed the first time around and perhaps found years later, but would have easily been in our top 5 had we seen it at that time. So, Rob, what is your cut?
My cut line's already been mentioned, but Pretty Woman, 1990. So it wasn't a movie. I'm not a huge fan of it, and it's one I don't remember watching when it came out. But some things I found. Did you know what the original title was?
3,000.
3,000. Is that in?
3,000.
Yeah, that's what that. It was.
What? How much money she gets?
Is that what? That's what I was going to ask you
I don't know,
guys.
but I just saw that. It might be, but Disney didn't want to keep it because it sounded like a
I'm trying
sci-fi
to think, 'cause
movie.
when she kicks her leg, $3,000.
Is it the money
I think
he
it's
maybe
the
it's
money.
the money.
I think it's how
Okay.
much
Yeah.
she gets for staying with them.
At the time, it was the highest ticket sales in the U.S. for a romantic comedy of all time, and then at the time, it was fourth highest grossing film of all time behind E.T., Star Wars, and Indiana Jones. So it held
Jeez.
a spot with some pretty
Heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters. So that's my cut. Is
No,
Pretty
when that
Woman.
movie came out, it was like everything everywhere. Like it was Pretty Woman
Well,
everything.
and everybody, I mean, that's
And
where
the
you kind of
song,
fell in love with
Yeah.
Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that was her.
Julie,
She
she
was
was
only
actually
21.
and she was nominated for Best Actress.
Wow.
Won a Golden Globe for Best Actress. She didn't win an Academy Award. But back to what you were saying about you were surprised that you watched it. Kids Choice Award. She got a favorite movie actress.
There you
it's
go.
rated
Kids'
R.
Choice. I know. So I'm like,
I
Kids'
saw that.
Choice?
which Kids
Well,
Choice?
come on, we work with kids every day. The stuff that they're
Well,
watching at the
I
ages that they
know.
are, you're
Yeah, but
like,
I would
why are
say
you watching that?
I would say 1990.
What are
we
you
weren't-
talking about?
We didn't have
1990.
internet
How
and all
many,
that.
how many movies were we watching at friends' houses
Yeah, I
that
know.
we probably
That's-
shouldn't have been
gotcha.
watching when we were like in grade
That's
school?
That's true.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Was
Well,
this
that's a good.
Or they just
That's a good
picked
honor.
whatever
That's
was
a good cut.
popular at the time, you know. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the kids are like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that movie. My mom watches it."
Yeah, so that's my
a
cut.
good
line.
cut.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
good
right,
one.
Paula.
All right, my cut line is a movie that I felt like it has to make a list, and I was surprised that I didn't pick some more of this rom-com combo, but it's You've Got Mail. It was 1998, and so Tom Hanks.
FOX.
I don't know that.
You haven't watched it?
No.
You've never seen You've Got Mail.
What?
Wow. If anybody could see the looks, I just got all three of you. Your
Pretty
heads
popular
snapped around.
movie.
No, I don't.
You should make
I
him
don't
watch
know.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Paula, date night tonight.
Yeah.
I know.
Pull it up.
And
on
then
I'll watch it with you.
streaming.
I haven't watched it in a really long time.
It's a good little Saturday night.
Yes. But, Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks, good combination. I thought, man, I can't have a list without having them on there. Even
That's
though
a
it
good
wasn't-
point. There hasn't been a whole lot of Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, some of the rom-com heady hitters.
I know.
That hasn't made the list yet.
And what's
Yeah.
funny is we were talking about New York earlier, but that's what really is memorable to me about this movie is that feel of being in New York. And like I said, never been to there or anything, but you always watch these movies and they're in these cute little brownstones or whatever houses or apartments. These little coffee shops down the way.
By the way, those brownstones cost multiples of millions of dollars. So
Yeah, but you can still dream.
Once this
you can
podcast
dream.
takes
You can-
off,
yeah,
then
there we go. We can get a brownstone.
You can still dream.
Do they have brownstones in Sunnyside? Because we can get one of those, probably with the podcast.
And I think it's also the whole idea of like she's the little bookshop owner.
He's the big bookshop owner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming in, and I would love to own a bookstore
Yeah.
that looks like that, where you have these big comfy chairs and coffee, and you just can curl up and
Yeah.
read a book.
And-
I mean,
and-
it's just the feel of it
It
is
is.
the reason why I love that
her,
movie.
And her bookstore is a children's bookstore. So
Oh, that's right.
That really
I
hits with
forgot
some
about
school
that.
teachers here. Yeah, I
Yes,
love
I forgot it was a
it's
children's
a children's bookstore.
bookstore.
I would love
Yeah.
to have that job.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
So
a good
anyway, You've Got Mail.
Good one.
Good
Rotten
one.
Tomatoes 70. So that's why I was
70.
asking if that was low or high. So I
Nope,
wasn't
that's
sure.
good.
So
That should be
Curious about
certified
what
fresh.
the
because
audience
at
is
school I
on
don't
that.
want a 70.
What is
So
your
what-
cut, Laurel?
Well, my cut is another Julia Roberts movie,
Of course.
and it came out in 1997.
I know what this is.
And it starred Julia Roberts along with Dermot Mulroney, Cameron
Oh,
Diaz,
yes.
and Rupert Everett, and that is my best friend's wedding.
Yes.
Knew that would be
So I know it's so funny. I don't know that Rupert Everett's the best part of it, hands down. It got 74% Rotten Tomatoes, 77's audience score. It's longtime friends that have been friends from college, which is Roberts and Mulroney, and they kind of made a pact, said if they're single when they're 28, that they'll marry each other. Well, it's rolling around to Julia Roberts' character's birthday, 28th birthday. And she's kind of worried that he's going to ask her to marry because she doesn't want to get married. And he comes back and says, no, I'm actually marrying this girl. And he's marrying Cameron Diaz. And I think she was only like 19, 20.
Yeah, she was pretty young.
She was really young when she did that. And then, of course, Julia Roberts' character realizes that she's actually in love with Dermot Mulroney, and she wants to break up their wedding. is basically. But she gets asked to be the best or maid of honor
Maid of honor.
at the wedding.
Yep.
So so she is trying to sabatage this wedding at the same time. I don't know. So it's a really cute movie. Always makes me laugh. The part when they're singing in the restaurant and
What's the song? Say a little prayer for you.
Say a little prayer for you.
There you go.
Dionne Warwick, right? And I
Dionne
think when
Warwick.
I was doing my research, I saw that most of the music in there is Dionne Warwick.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a cute one, and I've watched it a ton. Didn't quite make the cut, but I was kind of back and forth. I actually had another one I was back and forth on. I'm like, got to put a Julia Roberts on there because.
Well, that's solid. I've
The only
seen
thing-
it because I watched it with her, but
The only
Have you
thing-
seen it, Rob?
of course not.
What?
Oh, it's
This is
good.
why
The
the list
only
was
thing
so
that
hard
that
for
does
you. You
for
didn't
me is
watch
it brings
anything.
up the classic SNL sketch Dylan McDermott or Dermot Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney. Yeah,
Yes.
you get them all.
Which
mixed
one
up.
is which?
Yeah,
I
we
know.
Nobody
I was
knows.
Who
thinking
knows? It's the same guy.
It's the same actor.
It's like on that. It's
You
like
can't tell me which
it's
one's
like
which.
on
I know
If I
which
showed you
one.
two pictures, you wouldn't be able to pick
No.
which one.
I would.
like on
because I was always a
Seinfeld.
big fan of Dermot Mulroney.
on Seinfeld. He goes, they're cloning sheep now. He goes, this is the same sheep. Because I've seen that trick before. But
Well, you
my
should.
cut is one already they got measured. 10 things I hate about you. So I won't repeat much. You hit pretty much all of it. The only thing I'll add is that I think the most underrated character in that movie is Bianca and Kat, Julie Stiles and her sister's dad.
Yeah.
So he plays an obstetrician. He's a doctor, and he just has some pretty good one-liners in there. Because whenever they're going on a date, like he makes the daughter wear like the big pregnancy
belly,
so she knows.
see what it's like
He goes,
to be
now
pregnant.
you'll know what it's like to be pregnant.
is.
And so he's just funny. He's got a lot of good lines in that movie. So he's one of the best parts, I think, and he's got a really small part. Larry Miller is the name of the actor, but he plays the dad. But yeah, 10 things I hate about you. So
yeah,
it's
good.
So
it's a good one.
so honorable mention, Rob.
My honorable mention is one that we've talked quite a bit about on previous episode is Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I think it holds its own as a romantic comedy.
Of course it does.
You know, I considered it.
Yeah.
I thought about it because I'm like, it is. It's obviously a comedy, and I'm like, there is a love story, but
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just one of those. When Paul and I were talking movies that, I mean, we didn't discuss this particular one, but I said movies that I would just classify more as a comedy.
Yeah.
I guess I don't
Yeah.
take a look at it and
That-
remember the love story.
That's
in
why
it.
it fell to the honorable mention,
Yeah.
I thought, because we discussed so much of the time loop and kind of the intricacies of that there is a
Yeah,
romantic
There
element
is.
to it. There's
There
a romantic
is.
story happening there. So
there is.
that's my honorable mention.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a good one.
Good one.
That is a good one.
My honorable mention, I saw one place that it was a romantic comedy and I saw another place that it was a romantic drama. So, and I did not see this movie until or even hear about it till just a couple years ago on Netflix. I saw it and I'm like, it's Gwyneth Paltrow. How have I not seen this movie? And it's Sliding Doors.
Oh,
Okay.
I've never seen that.
So it came out in 1998. I'm like, I don't know how I missed it, but maybe because it is a little bit more dark. It's about two, like if her life would have went this way, if she caught the train or if she missed the train. And it gets dark. I was reading through the description because I couldn't remember everything. And at the end, one of the places she dies. And another one she doesn't. So anyway, that's what I mean. It might not necessarily be a romantic comedy because I've only watched it the one time. But when I was going through the list, that is the only movie off those lists of
That you hadn't
movies
seen.
When you're doing
Hadn't
research.
seen.
that I could not.
And I think I remember seeing that on there. It was one of the ones that I hadn't. There weren't many. I was like you. I had a hard time finding ones that I hadn't seen.
But yeah, it's that whole idea of, but it's kind of interesting to think like if I missed a train, what would my life look like versus if I make the train? And she ends up, when she makes the train, she ends up catching her boyfriend with a
One might say
ex-girlfriend.
that movie causes you to think.
Yes, a little bit. And it
does.
goes right into what you
Just-
love, heady movies.
Yeah.
Right, Rob?
I was gonna say.
You love
And
heady
then-
movies.
So anyway, Sliding Doors, I could truly say I did not watch that in the 90s. I
Nice.
just watched it a couple years
Good.
ago.
I've seen it once, so I don't have. I knew the plot, but
Who's
I don't
the
have much.
supporting
Would you
cast in it?
Do you know?
Is there anybody else?
Gwyneth Paltrow's kind of the
That's
biggest
it.
star.
Okay.
in that.
Okay.
Oh,
No, you're
you
draw a
would
blank.
know the people. You can look it up and stuff.
It's a 98 film.
98 film.
Lydia's the ex-girlfriend, and Jean
Oh, Jean
Triplehorn. Yeah,
Triplehorn's in
Jean
it.
Triplehorn.
Okay.
I was like, wait, I can see her
She's
face.
a good 90s actress.
Yeah.
And the guys are names that you would know, but they're not necessarily.
A movie to put on my watch list, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah. Would you consider a romantic comedy since you've seen
So yeah, that'd be on the dark side.
Yes.
I don't find it super funny all the time. There's a couple elements, but it could be dark comedy. It's
Yeah.
close, but I'll give
Yeah.
it to you. It's better than Son-in-Law, so I'll give it to
Yeah.
you.
Well, like I said, I even was going back and forth, but I only
fair.
put it there because it's the one I could find that I hadn't.
that you
Yeah.
hadn't
That
seen
works.
originally in the 90s.
Well, what is your honorable mention?
All right. This was difficult for me too, going through that list, like Paula said, trying to find something that I hadn't seen back in actually the 90s. And this one I did not watch during the 90s, but it did come out mid 1994, and it starred Hugh Grant, like Notting Hill, but this one had Andy McDowell in it and Kristen Scott Thomas and a little tiny bit of Rowan Atkinson, and I love him. And that is 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Have you guys seen it?
I have not
I am
seen it.
aware of the movie for sure, but
I
I
know the
can't
name. Never
remember
watched
if
it.
I ever did watch it.
Yeah, it's classic Hugh Grant. You know, he's kind of a little bit of a bumbling fool, but he's actually playing an English bachelor. He's got a group of friends. They're all kind of bachelors, and they end up going to weddings. Often he ends up meeting Annie McDowell. She's an American there, but they kind of start questioning, you know, what are we doing? Because he never wants to get married, or he thinks he doesn't. And so lots of British humor, because it's a bunch
I
of
was going to
British
say, to me, I
actors.
remember being a British film.
It is a
Yeah,
British film.
Yeah. So originally, but
And you love your British humor, Rob.
well,
Yep.
okay. So yes,
I
you
love
got to
my
like some
Blackadder.
British humor, but there's some, you know, good. There's some good side characters and everybody in there. But he, after having one night with her, he returns and he thinks that, you know, he probably does like her, and their paths keep crossing because they keep running into.
Crossing.
Sorry,
Yeah,
they
you're
keep
good.
running into each other at other weddings. She eventually comes back and introduces she's getting married. And he ends up going to her wedding, and she's married and everything. And then he eventually, really cute, at one of the weddings, he gets put, because they're kind of fancy weddings, and they're assigned seats at a table. He sits down. He realizes he's at a wedding with a bunch of his ex-girlfriends. And they don't realize that they're all ex-girlfriends, and kind of some of all the stuff that they're bringing up, because he's kind of talked about each of them to the other one. So it's actually a really good movie. I highly suggest it. It actually was nominated for 2 Oscars. Actually, it was nominated for Best Picture and Best Screenplay too. So
There you go.
yeah, and I would say probably one of the ones that made Hugh Grant kind of popular, and then kind of started that
Move him
ball
up.
rolling
That
with all of
trend.
those other things. So yeah, it's a really cute movie. So. And Rowan Atkinson, he plays a vicar, I think, and he's flubbing the lines, and he is my favorite in other things too. If you've ever seen Blackadder, yes,
Just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Great British comedy. Yeah. So.
Sorry, had to put it in there.
Yep.
All right.
Well, my honorable mention has already been named, and it's Father of the Bride. I never saw this movie until I met Laurel. She made me watch it, and it wasn't that terrible. It's a good movie. Martin Short is the best part of that movie. He's the part that makes me laugh. Steve Martin's okay. I've never been a huge Steve Martin fan. He is what he is, but Martin Short does a good job in that movie.
The two of them
so.
together do well.
Just together.
They do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get a little too much, but that's okay. They did good in this movie, so I like. Yeah. So it's Father of the Bride. So that was my honorable mention.
Nice.
So what is your? It's time.
Wait, I wanted to.
wait,
Can
yeah.
I point something out? Actually, when
Sure.
I was doing my research for Father of the Bride, there was a little bit in it where his character, Steve Martin's George Banks, says that he doesn't want the wedding to bankrupt him, so he'll end up wandering the streets in a bathrobe. And it just so happens that Steve Martin's character in The Jerk does just that,
Yeah.
walking around.
course he does.
So it's kind of
little,
so it's kind of a little nod back to one of his
yeah.
older movies.
That's when he
and
loses
stuff,
all
so-
his money because the Optigrab made people cross-eyed. So then he
Yeah.
lost all his money. So
Yeah. So.
Okay.
if you haven't seen The Jerk,
A little, what do you call that? Like multiverse.
The Steve Martin multiverse.
Yeah, so those little nuggets put in there.
well, that brings us to the exciting part. Everyone's number one. So
All right. My number one is I like it, and I make no apologies for it.
it's not going to be good. When he leads with I like it.
1997 Fools Rush In.
Oh,
Oh
my
my
God.
That
gosh.
was on my cutting room floor because
Is that
That should be in
I
the trash, actually.
that movie. I do like
I
it.
like it.
Is this the
Okay,
one
this
with
is Matthew Perry.
Yeah,
He's an
and
architect.
Salma
Salma
Hayek.
Hayek?
Yes.
Yep, he gets relocated to, and it's a 34% Rotten Tomato,
Yeah, deserve it.
64% audience. So there's the right.
All right.
Matthew Perry's an architect. He gets relocated to Las Vegas. He meets Salma Hayek. They have a one-night stand. She gets pregnant. 3 months later, they run into each other. She's pregnant. My favorite part of that movie is the tension between the two families because very Protestant white, Catholic Hispanic. They it's funny. And then my favorite scene is when they go to the lake to meet her side of the family. And the dad says, in case you haven't noticed, the white people are melting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next scene is them coming up
remember
the escalator, and they're completely sunburnt. But
That's,
I like this movie a lot.
all right.
I like her. Is it a Bronco or a?
She has a Bronco, and they
Yes.
meet on the Hoover Dam.
That's my favorite part of the movie.
I do remember that. I feel like I remember watching it. I think the thing I remember most is it made me want to go to New York City. Because he goes to New York City later,
he's
right?
based out of New York City.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to find a place where they did Grace Papaya hot dogs.
yeah.
Because I'm
That's
like,
right.
that's
Oh, yeah.
where you go to get a hot dog,
And
apparently, in New York City.
That's one of the things at the end. She has one
Yeah.
delivered out to Vegas because
And
he
You're right,
wants
because
it.
he wants it. And I'm not going to lie, when we moved to New Jersey and we got to go to New York City, I kind of probably looked to
Googled
see,
it.
is there a Grace Papaya around here? So I can-
Well, you would think that that'd be the best place to get a hot dog, but as it turns out, it's just Costco. It's the best place to get a hot dog.
According
$1
to our niece.
For $1.50, and you get a
According
pop.
to me, that's the best hot dog. Our
Oh,
niece
no,
thinks
the
it's
niece
the
thinks
best
the pizza. That's right. So the hot dog.
Well, that is
That's my number one.
That is your
And I'm
number one.
sticking to it.
Okay.
You have to stick to it because you said it out loud.
Number
That's right.
one, really?
That's my number
of all
one.
the
Wait a
other
second.
movies, that was number
Tell
one.
me again, recap what your top four
No,
were.
we can't go through
Because-
history.
It's not.
No.
important.
That beat out The Wedding Singer,
And
as it turns out.
I like this movie.
That's fine.
And Sorry Murder and Axe Murder, correct?
Yeah,
Was
he had that on there too.
How?
That's fine.
That was my
Rob?
number like 3 or something.
He has to live with that, not the
This
rest
is
of us.
what he's known
I feel
for.
like
This is what
like,
he's known for.
I don't know. Was it like an Etch-a-Sketch and you just like shook it and then all of you just let it work?
I just
The
put
stuff?
names in a bag.
Just put it and it
Pull
draws them
and I
out
pulled out.
and
This.
see what comes out. So,
All right.
all right, Paul, see if you
My
can top that.
number one has already been mentioned,
Oh.
and it is Notting
Fools Rush
Hill.
In.
Notting Hill.
Yeah, I just love that movie. I just rewatch it. I just think it's cute when he does oopsie daisies.
Oops.
I love Hugh Grant. He's
Yeah.
just a funny, kind of, you said
He is.
bumbling kind of,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
is.
he's serious. He's not trying to be funny. It just,
But he's kind of the straight funny.
he's like straight funny.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Machine
love.
gun bursts of sobs. Remember he goes.
Sobs.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
love his dry humor, and I just think that's super funny.
Yeah,
So,
It is.
it is. And
Anyway.
we've liked several other movies of
Yes.
his. I seem to recall one we saw later with Drew Barrymore and him in the night. Do you know which one I'm talking
2
about?
Weeks Notice, is that one?
No, I'm
No.
Oh,
not.
no, that's with Sandra Bullock.
Sandra
That's
Bullock.
not
No,
with.
I'm talking about the one where they dance, or he's in the boy band, or the girl.
Oh, yes.
Where they're supposed to be like Wham. I think we saw that in the theater.
Yes, and I actually have that on DVD.
Lyrics.
good.
Lyrics
Music and
and
lyrics.
music and lyrics.
lyrics.
No, all of a sudden I was thinking of 2 Weeks Notice, but that because that's another movie I love about that. You know, like
But
he's on the bed mattress.
Well, Love Actually, when he dances through when he's the prime minister.
Okay,
So
so I had to look to see when that movie was released because
Oh,
that
that
would
was in the
definitely
2003.
it was
It was.
yes.
because that would have been on my list.
Because that was an honorable mention, would have been an honorable mention.
Never
for
seen
me.
it.
I
Yes.
just
What?
saw it.
Oh, man.
Oh
I
my
just saw
gosh,
it this
Rob.
Christmas. You guys have talked about it forever.
You just
So
saw it
I
too?
finally just watched it this Christmas
And
by myself. I liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
it's fabulous.
Yeah.
The ensemble cast
Yes.
is terrific. Alan Rickman. I mean, Hugh Grant. I mean, it's just it's amazing.
Yes.
You
But
have to
I-
watch it. I
But-
can't believe
I'll
you
take
haven't
your
watched
word
it.
for it.
But it's a 2000s movie.
It is.
Yes. So
Sorry,
we can't talk
we're
about it.
Okay.
deviating.
But I
you're-
will have to say
you're-
that was the one that popped in my head as an honorable mention.
I got you.
Okay.
Yep. It
But
just
I
missed.
couldn't. Yes.
Good one.
Just missed.
You need to get this classroom back.
I know.
Sorry,
What is your
sorry.
number one?
Oh, okay. Mine was already mentioned, and my number one is You've Got Mail.
Ah, there it is.
I watch this every year. For some reason, because it's in New York City, and the movie opens in the fall, I always think, oh, it's fall, and she's gonna go get a pumpkin, and talks about freshly sharpened pencils, and let's watch let's watch You've Got Mail. So, Tom Hanks with Meg Ryan. I mean, gold. I know they were in Sleepless Seattle together, but I think I like this one better. I really like Parker Posey in it. She's pretty funny as Greg Kinnear's girlfriend, Dave Chappelle, playing as.
He's not
Tom
funny in it though. He's
He
just talking.
is. I
Not
know,
really.
but he's
playing a
he's
straight
good-
man, which is weird.
He says a couple.
Yeah, that's not.
And this has a really good line for anybody that's fans of going to Starbucks. I really like the line. It says, the purpose of places like Starbucks is for people who have no decision-making ability to make 6 decisions just to buy a cup of coffee. So, and I do love that because I love going to Starbucks, and I try not to be that person that has like a million things, how they modify their drink, but I've been there with many people that do.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. Super cute movie.
And
Always
people
a
like
fan.
you annoy me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I
When
don't
we're in the drive-through,
I
and
don't
I'm
order like that.
just order a coffee. And then,
just order coffee. You know what? If
Well, if
you
you go to
want all the
Starbucks, you have taken that upon yourself.
I know.
That's what's going to happen. So that's your own fault.
Not that has
That's
to do
true.
anything with the 90s, but another Starbucks right with the Curb Your Enthusiasm, my favorite.
I
Larry
gotcha.
David when he says, "I just want one of those vanilla bullshits."
Yeah,
That's how
what
he
he
orders
says.
the drink. So that's how you should
Well,
order the drink at Starbucks.
Yeah, because he sells it and he goes, "Oh, milk and coffee. Who's the genius to put those two things together?" Right. So anyway,
what's your number one, David?
my number one is one that hasn't been mentioned, and
Oh.
they're probably not going to like, but I love it. There's something about Mary. So released 15
I
July
saw it on the
1998.
I did too.
Cameron Diaz, Ben Stiller, Matt Dillon, Chris Elliott. Rotten Tomatoes 84%, audience 61%. So obviously the critics. So many iconic scenes in this. You've got, the basic plot of the movie is Ben Stiller in high school falls in love with Cameron Diaz. Through a terrible scenario at the prom, he gets himself injured in a very uncomfortable area, and he gets the beans above the Frank, right? So
In the zipper.
Franks
In
and
the
beans
zipper.
in the zipper.
In the zipper.
In the zipper.
It's a terrible
so
scene.
years later,
Awful scene.
it's great. And years later, he has a private eye go find her. The private eye falls in love with her. Then you've got him. Ben Stiller goes down there. They start dating. Her brother Warren, who you can't touch his ears. Have you seen my baseball? Yeah, all that. Anyway, but at the end, they break up because she finds out he was stalking her. Only for him to bring Brett Favre back in her favor, as he calls him, in the situation. But she chooses him in the end. So it's hilarious. Obviously, anyone who's seen it, you know how funny it is from start to finish. There's some parts now, if you watch it, that aren't culturally sensitive any longer. Especially the parts when he's talking about the special needs folks. Matt Dillon, he's
Well,
a
his brother, yeah.
little insensitive in some of those areas, but it's still funny. And Laurel's favorite scene is when he gets the hair gel stuck on his ear.
That is not
because
my
he
favorite
doesn't
scene.
want to go out with
Grosses
a loaded
me
gun.
out.
So, it's funny, when I was younger and first saw this movie, my favorite part actually is when he had the hitchhiker and he was like telling him about his 6 minute or 7 minute abs. And he goes, well, what happens if somebody has 6 minute abs? He's like, no, there's no 6 minute abs because you can't break a sweat in 6 minutes. He goes, 7's the number. He goes, 7-11's, something like that. And he says, step in my office. He goes, why? Because you're fired, So anyway, he turned out to be a serial killer. But yeah, there's something about Mary. I think it's a great movie.
That was a good.
Fairley Brothers.
I wondered if he'd have that in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
did
actually,
see
when I was doing
that.
some research and seeing that was classified as a,
It's a love story.
No,
I
it's a
guess,
comedy.
as a
From
as
start
a
to finish, Ben
rom-com.
Stiller's trying to get
It
Cameron Diaz back in his
is,
life.
I guess.
But I will have to say, I did pretty much predict that
I knew
That
it
would
would
be
be
on
on
the
this
so
list.
that would be on the list. So I Married to Axe Murder would be on the list. I
Yeah.
kind of guessed that.
Had
but
to be.
And I kind of guess The Wedding Singer would be on the
Yes.
list.
Yeah.
So that was a good. Those are good bookends. Son-in-law
Son-in-law.
was where we started.
There's
And
something about
there was,
Mary.
yeah.
And we
then
had some others
everything
in between. Everything in
Hopefully
between.
people don't judge us on
I
this.
think
Oh, they're gonna
that
judge
we,
us.
that we picked these guys.
Well, these.
Yeah,
So
they've already judged
Those-
us. They've already judged you
yes, for 100.
20
because
years
they've heard
later.
5 other episodes and they're like,
Yeah,
I know.
they already feel bad for
there
you.
we go.
But it just shows you the difference between girl rom-coms
You're-
and boy rom-coms.
Boy rom-coms.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Although you two had a couple similar rom-coms, so
Yes.
you're in tune there.
Well, no, she's talking about similar.
No, I
of
understand.
What,
But they
of
had
what
like
you
2 or
guys-
3 that they picked the same movie.
That's
so
true.
obviously
I don't
they're
think
on
we had
time.
any that we
Ah,
picked.
we didn't.
Oh well, your
Father of
honorable
the Bride,
mention
and
was
then
my
Oh, yeah.
number
That
2.
was it.
So.
Everything else, which I pretty much knew her list, but that's fine.
That's fine.
Well, to be most of these movies I saw before
I know.
you, so you didn't have to be tortured by
I
them.
understand. So it's all good. I've just been tortured since then. So it's all good. Well, those are our lists. I think if you took all those movies and took a weekend, you'd get a good idea of what rom-coms in the 90s look like. A couple that didn't come up, Sleepless in Seattle, I would have thought somebody
I
would have had that.
mentioned it.
You mentioned it, just not on a list.
Yeah.
That's on the
Another real good teen comedy that I was close to putting on, but She's the One, Freddie Prinze Jr. So that's a pretty good one. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. I think Julia Roberts had a couple more, Runaway Bride, a couple other types
did.
like that. So
I had that. I also on a long list 9 months, which had
Yes.
Hugh Grant in
Yeah.
it too.
I like-
I thought for
almo-
sure that'd be on your list. and
I
it didn't make
almost
it.
picked
You know,
that
I kind of
one.
was looking at it, but those other ones I thought, I rated a little higher. But I liked the other cast besides even Hugh Grant. But because Rob
I was
Williams
actually
in
waiting
that,
for the bird
right?
cage to pop up.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't. So
Oh,
I didn't even think
I
about
didn't
that
think
one.
of that as a rom-com.
I don't think of it as a rom-com. I don't know.
But you're
I guess-
trying to get the two of them together,
Yes,
but the
it's not
senator
a
and then we're
love
breaking
story.
them up.
Like that's
I
not
gotcha.
the focus
Yeah.
of it.
Was that
The
that
focus
was
is
90s?
96.
That was 90s. But that's
I
more
didn't-
to me a comedy.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
think
have
of that
any.
as a
straight
comedy.
comedy.
I had no cutting room
Because
for
I
it.
do like that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
No cutting room.
No
for it
cutting
for me.
room.
No,
Did
the
you
only
hate
one that
everything?
I want to go back and rewatch because I know I liked it was Gross Point Blank.
Oh.
I did.
Also good
Awesome.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
Good
know it
movie,
was a
too.
good movie, but I couldn't say anything about it. I want to rewatch that.
I was close to putting that on too, but I might save that for a different list. So,
Yeah.
because I look at that a little differently, but that's fine. That's a fantastic movie. So, well, first I'd like to thank our wonderful, beautiful wives for coming on the show and giving us a little of, and giving all of our listeners a little insight into how all of us operate.
Into this crazy madness.
Into this crazy madness. So, but it's been a great ride. You got anything to close, Paula?
No, I just think it's always fun sitting around and laughing with you guys. So
It is.
That was fun.
No.
yeah. So yeah,
Well,
I was excited to hear though because I knew I'd probably forget about some movies.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to hear ones because now I want to go home and watch a few of these.
Watch
The rest of the
Yes,
weekend.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure that's all we'll do. We'll just sit and watch movies. You're just going to lesson plan. That's all that's really going to happen. So, well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Totally 80s and 90s Recall. We hope you've enjoyed reliving our favorite romantic comedies from the 1990s. What did we get right or wrong? Or did we miss something altogether? Let us know on Twitter or our website, which are both included in the show notes. You can also email us at totally80s90s@gmail.com with comments or show ideas you may want to hear in the future. Any emails we get may be read on future episodes. Finally, if you like the podcast, please hit the subscribe button, like the show, give it a thumbs up, give it 5 stars, and share it with your friends. Share it across social media. That will only help the show grow and give us an opportunity to reach a bigger audience. Our homework for next time is going to be the top alternative songs of 1994.
Alternative songs in '94.
Alternative songs
Okay.
should be a good one. I'm
Any-
looking forward to that one.
Any definition of alternative?
Whatever you think alternative is. I would
Okay.
just say if it's not a top 40 pop type song,
Okay.
you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll see what you come up with.
That'll be fun.
We're always excited to see where you stretch that out and find out what you determine are those kinds of songs.
okay.
So,
No, that'll be
but-
fun.
you got anything else?
Nope.
Fancy goodbye?
No fancy goodbye.
All right.